Are you ready to boost your confidence when selling so you're able to close more deals? Nikki Roush will show you how to build a foundation of skills and a mindset that creates sales success without feeling pushy or salesy and without fear of rejection. She is a sales strategist and coach with more than 25 years of sales experience and is master certified in neuro-linguistic programming. This is a radically different approach to selling. It's a no sleaze, no slime, and no stress approach to building your business. This is Sales Maven. Here's Nikki.
Welcome to the Sales Maven podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Roush. I am so excited to get to spend this time with you today. And the topic for our conversation today is all around overcoming the price objection. My guess is if you've been in business for any period of time, you have encountered somebody who had an objection to price. And this is something that comes up a lot in the Sales Maven Society. People are always asking, like, what should I say or what should I do? This is the objection the person had. And it usually will come down to something about price that seems to stump people the most. So that is why I decided to do this particular episode today. And I'm really excited to get into this a little with you. And the goal, of course, is that you leave here today with some more confidence about how you handle that particular objection. Now, before we do that, I want to thank those of you who have taken the time to rate and review the podcast. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm so grateful. And I feel so touched every time I read a nice review that somebody has left on the podcast. And I'm also very honored when you share the podcast with others. I find it particularly, trying to think what the right word is. It feels like the most beautiful gift when somebody tells me that they found the podcast because their friend or their colleague or somebody they trust had recommended it. I'm just so grateful for that. So if you haven't shared with me yet how you found the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Let's connect. And if you haven't left a rating or a review of the podcast yet, would you please? I'd be so grateful. Okay, let's get into the content here. Now, here's the thing about price objection, that sometimes it's a negotiation strategy and like something that people do. It's kind of their go-to. So I just want to comment on that. That's not really what I'm going to dig into today, but when you find people who just naturally want to negotiate price or see if it's negotiable, then that's kind of a strategy. And there's a little bit of a different approach to it. So maybe I will comment on it since I just brought it into the conversation, that a lot of times when I suspect that they're just checking to see if they can, negotiate with me on price, that's usually a place where I will kind of dig in a little bit and I'll just say, thank you so much for asking. That's the price. And then I'll issue an invitation. Is it something you'd like to, is this something you'd like to work together on? Or would you like to go ahead and get signed up for that? So it's absolutely okay in those moments. But when you have gone through the 5 steps of the selling staircase and you've gotten to the close in the conversation with somebody, and they say, I really, really would like to do this with you, but I just can't swing it. The price is something that is just outside of what I'm capable of right now. So this is one of those times where you want to get really, really curious and thoughtful. So this is like such an important time to be a good listener and also to be curious, okay? Because it could just be that they can't afford the full payment all up front. So could you offer some options? Or it could be that they can't pay for it today, but they might be able to pay for it next week. And so there are some things that you want to check in and find out if it truly is they absolutely cannot afford it and there's nothing that you can do or say or offer to them that would make it easier, then these are those bless and release situations. There are certain times where I think sometimes people will ask me questions and they think that I have like magic answers I don't have any like pixie dust that you can sprinkle all over somebody and be like, okay, this totally changes your mind. Or now you can actually afford it. Because if they truly cannot afford it, then you bless and release. And you do it in a kind way. It's absolutely okay to say to somebody, hey, I get it. I understand. And I would love to earn your business if and when something changes. So please know that you're welcome to reach out to me at any point. I'll be so happy to hear from you. And sometimes that's enough. And you have to be willing to like walk away and let those things go. Now, if you suspect that there's some options, and frankly, you should always check to see, is price truly the objection, or is there some other piece of it? And I probably have talked about this on the podcast. So if you're like, oh, I've heard Nikki talk about this before, I hope this is a good refresher for you. And if you haven't heard me talk about it before, then I hope you'll take to heart some of the strategies that I'm going to share. So one of the strategies that I will often check to see is I will ask, so if I was able to offer you some payment options, is that something that would make this more feasible for you? So I ask a question. Notice I don't say, well, you could do a payment plan and here's the payment plan and you could, pay this amount and then you could pay that amount and then you could pay this other amount. Like, don't launch into a solution. Check to see if they would like a solution. So this is that you're checking to see, is this the real objection? And you're not going to go into like sales mode because then you sound like you're in convince mode. And anytime you find yourself in convince mode in a sales conversation, you've diminished your credibility. You start to sound like people will start to lose trust and faith in you when it sounds like you're trying to convince them to change their minds. And most people don't want to be convinced to change their minds. They'll change their mind in their own time and in their own way. So your job is never to try to convince people that their belief or what they can afford or what they're willing to pay for something is wrong. And when you're in convince mode, you are essentially saying to the other person, you're wrong. What you believe is wrong. You're wrong. Now, try this at home. Actually, don't, but imagine trying this at home with a person that you have a really good relationship with. And you say they have a really strong belief about something and you go, you're wrong and I'm going to convince you otherwise. Do they sit and like put their hands on their chin and go, oh yeah, I want to hear everything you have to say? Or do they dig their heels in and go, I'm wrong? No, you're wrong. And now they're going to like try to fight you on it, right? They're going to get defensive. They're going to go into this mode of like, it doesn't matter what you say now, you're never going to change my mind. And anytime you find yourself in these types of conversations, especially in a sales process, you now have created an imbalance in the relationship and you are at the disadvantage, not the other person. So be really careful about that. We want to always have a balance in the relationship so that we're kind of both on equal footing. Otherwise, people get taken advantage of or diminishes credibility, or people will go buy from somebody else and not buy from you. So really, really important that you pay attention to that. Now, so if they say, yeah, tell me about your payment options, then you give them some options. The other kind of solution here when they say, gosh, I would really like to do that, and that is just totally outside of my budget, then follow up with, well, what is your budget? What could you invest? What is something that would make sense for you from an investment standpoint? Like, ask a question. And then based on their answer, can you offer them what I call a downsell? And the downsell would be another, like a way for them to get started. It might not get them the full meal deal of what you recommend, but it might get them started in some way. I'm sure I have told this story. I feel like I tell this story a lot. I think I just told it recently on the podcast, so I apologize if I'm just telling the same old stories. But I remember one time a woman who reached out to me, we got on a discovery call, and I was asking my standard discovery questions. One of the things I asked is, what was your average sale price? And she said, I do a 1-hour training and I charge $3,000 for it. And I was like, okay, well, that's great. You get $3,000 for an hour. That's a good rate, right? And then when we got to the, what is she looking to invest? She really wanted to increase her close, and she makes $3,000 every time she closes. So I already know, like, I'm a really good investment for her because I can help her increase her close rate, and she's going to earn her money back instantly just through one strategy session with me, right? So she says, well, I'm only looking to invest $100. Wah, wah. So I was like, okay, well, for $100, you actually can buy all 3 of my books. I think maybe I only had 2 books at the time. So I was like, you could buy both of my books. And that's really the solution. There was no other solution for me to offer her if she really only wanted to invest $100. And I'm not here to try to convince her that she should spend more money. So that was a bless and release type situation, right? But for a lot of people, when you can offer them, like, here's a way that we could get started together. So for instance, sometimes I'll talk to people that will absolutely be great candidates for what they want to do some private coaching with me. Maybe my launch package, because they're going to launch something, or maybe it's a VIP type package, but they are not able to invest that type of money yet, because now we're talking thousands. So that might be a really good fit for a strategy session. So I might say, one of the ways I could get you started, and I know that we can, make some progress on these things that you have identified that you'd like some support on, is to do a strategy session. Is that something you'd like to talk more about? So notice I don't go, well, then you should buy a strategy session and here's the price for it and here's how to buy it. Because now that's convince mode. So I would say, we could start with a strategy session and that would get you started. Is that something you'd like to do? Let them say yes, or how much is a strategy session? Now we're still in it. We're still in the conversation. Okay? So be really clear about this. I always say, really there are 3 possible opportunities here, 3 possible alternatives, I guess I should really say. When price is the objection, it's 1, offer them some type of a payment option. And I find a lot of times with people, they don't even think about this. I find this a lot with my clients. They don't even think, could you offer them a payment option? They're like, well, I don't offer payment options. What if they prepaid? Would you do that? And they're like, oh, I had never thought about that. Get creative if it makes sense. I'm not in any way suggesting doing something that is going to harm your business or cause you to have to, jump through a bunch of hoops or do a bunch of paperwork or try to track people down for money or any of that stuff. I don't mean that. But be willing to be creative. Can you get creative? Can you offer a solution? If the answer is no, that you can't offer a solution, then sometimes the other alternative to that is bless and release. So might behoove you to spend some time thinking about what would alternative payment options look like in my business, and have that in your back pocket. Doesn't mean you need to go put it on your website. Doesn't mean you need to shout it from the rooftops to every single person that you've got these options. You save it for these situations where you would really like to earn this person's business, and you're just checking to see if having some type of a payment option in this scenario would make sense for them so that you can earn their business. Okay? So that's the first alternative. The second one I already talked about is this downsell. Can you give some type of a step down, get them started type solution? And maybe really frankly, the step down solution is your book, right? Or it's to go listen to your podcast, or it's to, check out your YouTube channel, whatever that is. It doesn't mean that you just have to say okay, well, go kick rocks. We'll never talk again, because sometimes people have to ramp up, right? I've had many people over the years that are I knew I wanted to work with you 3 years ago, and I was just waiting for my business to get to a certain level where I knew I could invest, or I knew I wanted to do a VIP day with you, or I knew I wanted to, have you work with me on whatever that is. Okay, great. Or, I didn't take your masterclass last year because, money was really tight. I knew I wanted to take it this year and I saved for it. I actually had somebody, I love this person too. She's been a great client, where for her Christmas present, she bought herself a ticket to one of my master classes. That was her gift to herself for Christmas. I love that, right? So obviously that's something where she had to save for that. So be willing to offer them kind of the option. And then the third thing really is let them know that if and when something changes, the third alternative, when something changes, that you'd be excited to work with them. Leave the door open. They're welcome to come back. So whatever happens there, like things change. So for me, a lot of times I'll just say to somebody, hey, if and when something were to change, I would love the opportunity to earn your business. So please know that you're welcome to reach out to me at any point, and I'll be so happy to hear from you. That leaves that door open that they can come back. It doesn't have to be awkward, like, oh, I told Nikki no, so I can never go back to her again because, I felt embarrassed or ashamed that I couldn't afford it at the time. I never, ever want people to feel that way. I always, always try to go for, hey, when something, when you're ready, I'm here. Or if I can earn your business at any point in the future, I would be so honored to do that. And I actually say earn your business. And I believe this in my business, that it really is my job to earn people's business. And that's how I approach every single client that I come into contact with. I expect that it's my job to earn their business, not for anybody to give me anything. It's just, no, I'm here to earn it. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I bring this particular episode to a close is that sometimes people will offer you just what they want to pay. And you need to decide how you're going to handle those particular situations. So I think I have talked about this before, but I know recently I had somebody reach out to me and I had an interesting conversation with the person that they had some interest. They showed some interest in working with me. They wanted to think about it, all the things. And then they sent me a message that said, hey, I would like to hire you to do this thing for me, and here's what I'm willing to pay. And I want you to do this other thing that would be for free. And then after that, we'll decide as a group whether or not we want to hire you for a bigger project. Now, in that moment, I have to decide what to do with that. And you may have these situations come up. And I just want to, if anything, I want to infuse a little bit of confidence in you to really stand in your place of credibility and authority and be okay with saying to the person, and this is what I did too, thank you so much for letting me know what it is that you want. Here is what I can do for you. And then I just said, here's my rate. What they'd offered was less than half of what my standard rate was for what they were asking me to do. So here's my rate. And yes, I will come and do this, thing that you're asking me to do for free. And then you guys can decide whether or not you want to work with me further. So I was giving some concession, but I wasn't giving all concession. The one thing I wasn't going to do was the thing that they were like, it was a lot of work for me, frankly, that they were going to pay me half of my rate to do it. So for me, it was a no. And I'm willing to walk away from those opportunities. Now, sometimes I will say yes to certain things, and I will take a less, rate. There are certain things that I know, gosh, if I can get in front of a certain number of people that are my ideal clients, I might I might be willing to negotiate if they're willing to do something, in return for me, or if it's an opportunity for me to, add subscribers to my newsletter or whatever that is. But I decide, just like you decide in your business. So when somebody comes at you, and this is a little, I guess maybe this is overcoming price objection, but it's really standing in your place. You set your price at a fair rate for a reason. You're worth it. If you didn't know you were worth it, you probably wouldn't have your pricing set the way it is. Most of us couldn't possibly, even though, sometimes I know I'm worth a lot more than I charge. I still I have to get over that in my own head. So I know that the pricing that I have set for my strategy sessions, for my master classes, for the Sales Maven Society, all of these things, I truly know that there's huge value, that the client is always going to get way more for their money than what I'm even charging. Like there's always some huge benefit. And I feel really good about that. That gives me the confidence to charge what I charge. And I hope you have that as well. So when somebody comes at you with an objection about price, don't be offended by it. Just get curious. Just check to see. And also be willing to ask yourself, do I want to earn this person's business? If you're somebody that is overly offended by the way they approached you about the pricing, it's also okay to bless and release those people. You don't have to try to earn their business if they're not a good fit for you, or if you're going to resent even working with them because of the way they approached the issue with the price. So all of these things, like this is what's so brilliant and beautiful about being an entrepreneur, is that we get to decide. Not just do the clients get to decide, if and when they hire us, but we get to decide who we take on as clients. So remember that too. All right, so I hope this was helpful around this overcoming price objection. If you are feeling like, oh my gosh, somebody objected to my price and now I got to figure out how to convince them that I'm worth it. Be really, really careful when you get into convince mode. All right, I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for being here and listening. You may have heard that 2022 is the year of connection for me, so I'm sharing some of my personal connections here on the podcast, some of the people who have made a big impact in my business or in my life. And so today I want to do a call out to Madhu Singh of the Foundry Law Group. Madhu is my lawyer, and she has been my lawyer since I started my business back in 2013. She's helped me with contracts. She's helped me with trademarks and things like that. She's just been phenomenal. And her law group, I'll share with you, she is the chief legal officer of the Foundry Law Group. And you may remember Madhu, she was actually on the podcast. We did a sales success story, and the episode is called Wording Design for Your Subscription Package. She has done a really great job of putting together a subscription package for businesses, which I think is super brilliant. So if you didn't hear that episode, you might go listen to it. But a little bit about the Foundry Law Group, which is her practice. It's a team of business, technology, and IP attorneys offering innovative entrepreneurs, startups, and growth stage companies a targeted approach to legal planning. One of the things that I most appreciate about Madhu and her team is they truly are entrepreneurs. And I don't often think of that when I think about dealing with lawyers. I don't think they have this entrepreneurial mindset, but she really, really does. And her team does as well. So I really appreciate that about them. So the best way to connect with them, if you're interested in learning more about them, is to go to foundrylawgroup.com. So it's FOUNDRYLAW group.com, foundrylawgroup.com. So go check them out. And if you're ready for some assistance, some guidance on your sales strategies and overcoming some of the objections that are coming your way, or if you just need some language to help you really level up where you are in your business right now, come join the Sales Maven Society. This is my monthly membership program. This is where you get access to me in live calls multiple times a month. You get access to my training center, which is packed full of training content on different sales topics. And you get access to an amazing private group of incredible entrepreneurs. And I am not exaggerating when I say that. The people in this group are so freaking amazing. And they're doing so many cool things in their businesses and in their communities. So come hang out with us. You can join by going to salesmavensociety.com. It's $147 a month to be in this group. There's no long-term commitment. You can come for a month and cancel. You can come I have people who have been in there since 2017 because they find such value in being in the group. And if this is your first time joining the Sales Maven Society, I'm going to give you a coupon code. So when you go to salesmavensociety.com, enter the coupon code 47trial, and I'll take $100 off the first month of membership. And you come hang out with us, see what this is about, and see how we can support you in taking your business to the next level. Thank you so, so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.